This is the North End. This is the North End.
Welcome to the North End podcast / YouTube channel. It is time for the review show. No preview this week. We've got some League Cup and FA Cup happening. So we're going to get into the reviews, and then we're going to do a bit of a special on transfers. And not even a bit of a special, a pretty amazing special. We're going to start with the clubs that are currently with the people who are here. You know, we're going to do Villa first, we're going to do Man U, and then we're going to do Spurs. And, of course, we're going to try to bring in Cameron, who was with us previously. Hopefully he can do a Liverpool one for us. Try to get as much sort of transfer gossip shit going on and have a lot of fun with that. I'm going to start around the horn. Lukey boy, good to see you, buddy. How are you, mate? You okay? I know you had a bit of a social media nightmare, but how are you recovering from that?
Oh mate, how can you recover? Like, who am I without my Instagram? I honestly I have no fucking idea. But yeah. It's been, listen, 2021 is behind us. Start the year fresh. I have had COVID. My Instagram's been hacked. It has to get better.
It has to improve, right? Has to improve.
But other than that, I'm good. And let me just make a quick point. Brian Island, you look fucking fantastic in that.
Oh, thank you. You know what? I just
That's a nice hat.
I appreciate that. It's the wedge cap. I also just discovered something about my lighting because you can tell I'm in my bedroom now. Lost my space. It's temporary, but I lost my space, so I'm doing things for my bedroom. But I discovered something about my lighting. So this is what it looked like before, right? It's all so one-sided and awful.
Yeah.
And all I did, it's a hanging like IKEA light on the side. I just spun it. Look at that.
Oh,
night
day. Oh, it's like professional.
Day
right
and night.
Literally night and day. Anyway, so I'm pretty happy with the lighting now, and it looks pretty good. So thank you for that, Luke. I appreciate it, and Connie and whoever else said I looked fantastic.
It's
Connie,
not a piece of shit, but the hat.
Hey, you know what? I'll take it as long as I look good is all that matters.
Exactly.
Connie, good to see you. Your lighting's not as good as mine, but you still look pretty good nonetheless. How are you?
I gotta up the lighting. I gotta get to the Brian Ireland lighting.
I just figured it. I got lucky.
Crisis at United. All I can think about is transfers, so I'm excited to chat with you fellas on the show here. But and we've got Villa on Monday, and they're 100% going to beat us. So not
Monday
looking forward to that either. Monday.
It's Monday, isn't it? Yeah, Monday game.
Monday.
Yeah.
So easy win for Villa.
So clearly we're gonna have to do a preview show sometime before the weekend.
FA Cup though. FA Cup though.
FA Cup on Monday. Oh right, you got him in the FA Cup. Okay,
we got him in the Cup,
but then we've got him in
the league right after.
Yeah, right.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, crazy.
We're going to lose both.
Spurs have Chelsea 3 times this month, so 2 in the League Cup and 1 in the league. So, happy, good times. JP, California, your lighting is always good, buddy, and you're handsome as ever.
California sun.
It's the weather.
I wouldn't know what that feels like lately. I've been trapped indoors. I got COVID
also
as well.
got COVID too, right? And you're feeling better, though. I
am feeling better. I was in the hospital. I was in the ER on Monday.
You're in the ER?
Yeah,
you didn't even tell us that. You said it was bad. I didn't know you got that bad.
It was pretty bad. I got a fever on Sunday, and it sat at 102 for 10 hours.
Wow.
And my kidneys got just blown up. So my kidneys swelled up and my back started throbbing. I couldn't stand upright, and I couldn't touch I was like literally hunched over like a really old man. It pained me to use the restroom. So finally I couldn't take it. And on Monday I went to the ER, sat around for 5 hours. Well done, American healthcare system. Well done.
The UK's worse, so don't worry.
To basically get me in there, have me sit around, take a blood test. I thought I had kidney stones. Nothing came up. So they're like, hey, we're going to give you some Norcos. We'll give you some antibiotics. We'll send you home. And I'm like, great. But the Norcos are actually amazing.
Have they said it's COVID though? Because
they tested me. They tested me, and I came back COVID positive. They think it's that new flu COVID going around. So I was like, I had the chills, I had the body aches, I had the headaches.
Yeah,
you got the fluvid, man.
I had everything, and it was brutal. So I'm on the mend now. I wake up every morning feeling like trash, and then it takes me like 2 or 3 hours to kind of like get everything out of my system, get the pills back in me, kind of water myself down, and it's brutal. But you know,
well, JPM, we're glad you're healthy. We're glad you're healthy, buddy. And I'm glad you're here.
Lots of water.
I just want to give a quick update on Bob Spur, who is going through a very similar situation, but obviously is a little bit further along. It's difficult. It hasn't gotten any better. It's gotten worse. He is currently in a coma, induced coma, intentionally induced coma, and is struggling to breathe. So obviously, he's a Spurs fan, and the Spurs community has been supporting him and his ex-wife and his kids and his girlfriend, and we're all behind him. And of course, he's been on this channel before too. So anybody who's watching this who had an opportunity to see him, he's an amazing human, and we're all just wishing the best for Bobby, because we really just want him to get better. So just want to give everybody
you got this
an update. Yeah, come on, Bobby. So. Let's get into some of the football, I guess.
Some
right?
less depressing stuff about all of us getting COVID and people being sick. Maybe let's transition from that.
I mean, it's a tough one, but we got to talk about it, right? Because these are people in the community, and it is where we are, and it's difficult. And, we're going to talk about it.
This is what he want us to do.
Yeah, for sure. And for exactly, it's like support the people that are doing the stuff we're doing, and hopefully people can get better. But yeah, I mean, there's not much that's going to make us happier. Some of us anyway, when it comes to the review show. So let's bring up the reviews here. And Connie, I'm going to let you roll with it.
I got
the wrong one. I did it again, didn't I? I brought it.
It's got to be slightly better. God damn.
Sorry, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to get much more exciting and a little bit higher prep.
We promise.
Yeah,
we promise.
1 year. Maybe not 2022, but 2023 has our number.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let me just bring this up. Chat amongst yourself while I find the right one. I had to put this show together very quickly, guys. I apologize for the.
You're all good.
Okay.
For having the wrong slide.
No worries.
It is here somewhere.
All right. On the side note, anybody watch the Harry Potter special? It was so good.
I tried to stream it last night. I'm gonna get to it at some point, but I'm excited.
All right, I think this is the right one, guys. Oh, I did it again. Why? It must be labeled the wrong. Is that the right scores though?
Yeah,
that looks right.
Brighton. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I think maybe because
changed the.
No,
that's wrong.
I think Paulie did it quickly, and he didn't change. He didn't change the week number, so it's supposed to be week 21, folks. We'll just ignore that right there, and we'll move on to the scores, and let's go through them, Connie.
Yeah, let's get into it. So Arsenal hosting Man City, and boys, I don't know about you, but I was impressed with Arsenal in this game. Ultimately,
they're a cracking team.
Yeah, ultimately they lose into the end to the penalty, and then Rodri celebrating in front of the Arsenal fans caused quite a stir. We'll talk about that in a second. But overall, before we just get into the game and the results, I think we need to take a minute. And Brian, even you would admit this. What a turnaround for Arsenal overall from where we started the season, the first 3 games. Arteta, all 4 of us were Arteta will be. We all said he's getting sacked. If anything, he's getting a contract extension, and they're played fantastic in this game against what I would call the best team in the world. Thoughts on Arsenal?
After cutting out their best striker, they cut out Aubameyang, and now they're playing better.
Well, that's that. I'm not surprised by that. I think relying on a player who hadn't been good for a long time and didn't look like he was going to improve is a smart thing to do. And he's done the right thing by getting him out of the team and focusing on who's doing well and making sure that that's what's going to happen. I think we said it on the previous pod that makes sense. I want to as good as Arsenal are, and this is not me taking away from them because they have been very good. I'm fully willing to admit it. I'm kind of terrified we have to play them in a couple weeks. It's going to be a cracking North London derby. But Man City, this is the worst I think I've seen them play as well.
Agreed.
Like there's a combination between how good Arsenal were and how poor Man City were. Like,
and they still won.
And they still won, and that's obviously the most frustrating part of it. But it was a poor display for Man City. But yeah, Arsenal's the amount of possession they had in the attacking third, the amount of chances they created, they just looked like the team that were more likely to win. And I was surprised by that. But Man City, maybe there's a chink in the armor there, guys. I'm hoping so.
I don't think so. I mean, they're always going to be due for a performance like this. But when they have performances like this and still win, it makes it even more frustrating. But I mean, for Arsenal,
they didn't win. They didn't get like a good goal in the end. They got lucky.
No, they got lucky. But what do you need to win championships?
I knew you
need
do.
luck, right?
Yep.
Let's talk about Saka. Is this kid now well, look, I wasn't sure about him before. He opened the scoring. Ultimately, Arsenal do end up getting a red card, which has a huge influence on the game. But is this guy, is he nailed on starter for England? Now, what do you guys say? I was on the fence about him. He's starting to show some consistency and he looks like their best attacking threat.
Would you say nail on starter? Do you mean like nail on starter on the right side of a
yes,
front three?
I would. I would say the right, Grealish on the left, the way that England are trending. But he's got to be, him and Odegaard look to me the ones that are the linchpin in the attack for Arsenal right now. They look threatening.
Yeah.
Like, really good.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, man.
Sorry, go ahead, Luke. Go ahead. All right. According to Southgate, well, as soon as Saka moves to a top 3 team, then he'll be a nail on. Otherwise, he's going to be in and out. All jokes aside, he's freaking good. How long is Arsenal going to be able to hold on to him if they can only get fourth place?
If they get fourth place, he'll stay with him.
If he gets fourth place, he'll stay for a year or two. But what happens if he keeps playing well or even relatively near this level? What happens when Man City come in with 75 million? What happens when Chelsea come in with 65 million? It might not be what Arsenal want, but are they going to stop him from going?
Arsenal don't need to sell, right? And
they don't.
And I think that's a really big part. And they've not needed to sell for years. Like, you can't get a season ticket at Arsenal. You can barely get tickets at Arsenal. They have great revenue. That their books are really balanced. It's really, really good. And I think it's a case of they don't need to sell. They've nurtured him well. And I think we have to really give Arteta his dues here because, we were all leaning on him and Ben White, 50 million. Man, Ben White looks absolutely beautiful.
Been great
in that midfield. That Odegaard, what a pickup he was as well. And just think of the youth that they're not even playing regular. Like, they play Eddie Nketiah, and he scores a hat-trick in the cup. Nketiah, he's fantastic. They've got. Yeah, well, I think he was just moaning about his contract to force. They've got the guy out on loan right now. I'm forgetting his name, blanking, who's absolutely lighting up the league out there as well. Like, they've got so many great youth. Saka is just one of them, and honestly, if Arsenal get to a decent finish this season and invest well again in the summer, why can't they be in the top 2, top 3 argument? Because United, we'll get into
getting ahead of yourself a little bit, I think.
No, I don't think he is. I think Luke's spot on. They've had a great summer. Yeah,
foundations are really solid. You think their wing backs are fantastic. Kieran and Tierney is brilliant.
They're an injury away from finishing 7th or 8th.
Yeah.
No, they're not. No, they're not. Yeah, Brian, you're being very inaccurate right now. Like, you are. They're playing.
Gets injured.
They're playing good football, and other than, you would argue right now, other than their strikers with Lacazette and Aubameyang and maybe another midfielder, the purchases that they've made have been fantastic. Martinelli's coming good.
Look, I'm not saying they're not good players, but I'm talking about depth. If they lose one key player, they're not going to finish fourth.
Where do you think they don't have the depth?
Oh, no, hold on a second. Luke said next season. Look, we're not talking about this season. I think for them to finish 4th, that would be a struggle. But if they continue to invest the way they did from last summer, it's very feasible next season that they could get back into that top 4, which is
top
now
4, yes, not 2nd or 3rd. Somebody just said 2nd or 3rd.
No.
That's
but
absurd.
Yeah, like 3rd, 4th are interchangeable. But the top 4 now in the EPL is fucking hard to get into, man, with how good the Cities, Liverpools, and Chelsea's. But let's be fair. They're playing very well. It was a very admirable result against City. Paul, welcome. Any thoughts on the Arsenal-City game?
That was a great game. I thought Arsenal were a little unlucky. I think that the current champions get the calls, kind of Chicago Bull style, with Michael Jordan. Kind of felt a little bit like that. I've been the recipient and the beneficiary of that before. I don't mind it. I think it's the way it should be. But I thought Arsenal played pretty well. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of this conversation about how great Arsenal is. Like, I mean, they've had a very simple run of
fixtures.
Like, their run of
you got to win those games, Paul, in the Premier League.
I know I got to win those, but like, to take a lot of what I'm hearing from those run of fixtures that they should be winning because they're still Arsenal. It's like, well, I mean, that's cart before the horse a little bit.
But they weren't winning those
easy games. United have dropped easy games. Yeah, exactly. They were,
but they haven't been.
No, but like, if your point is that you're comparing them to those teams and they're currently doing better, then yeah, for sure. But if you're saying that their trajectory is like they're all of a sudden going to be what they're not going to be, which is unfortunately strong, big spenders, which is what you have to do to keep up with.
That's the difference.
As an example, Spurs have fired a manager this season already, have 2 games in hand. If they win those 2 games against 2 teams they should beat, they'll be a point or 2 above Arsenal. So, like how much.
Well, let's segue.
How much do we want to wank about
well,
Arsenal?
let's segue.
Spurs are having a bad season and Arsenal having a great season.
Let's segue, because we talk about different teams and not just our own team, Brian. So let's segue into Watford versus Spurs. 1-0 Spurs. Brian, Antonio Conte. The Conte effect, let's be honest, it's been real.
It's been real.
What are we thinking? They've been on fire in the league. And
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I'm gonna pull back a little bit from that.
Results wise,
yes, and that was what I was gonna get to. Our results have been great, and that means that the manager has gotten us to be solid at the back, and that's our biggest problem. And we saw it today in the League Cup when there was no Eric Dyer in there, and we put Tanganga in the mid in that center of the 3 or part of that center. That 3 things fell apart a little bit. It's a work in progress. We've also had some pretty good fixtures, and like to compare it to Arsenal the way I just did, we've had Watford, Southampton, these teams that aren't necessarily teams we should be struggling against, and we've gotten results, and that's what we also were missing. So yes, you have to get those results, but we have a couple of games in hand. We win those games, we end up being in a position where we're above Arsenal, Man U, and potentially a point or 2 behind Chelsea, who are one of the guaranteed top 3s, who I actually picked to win the league at one point. I am being realistic. I recognize Spurs are work in progress. We weren't very good in this game against Watford. We got it done. Watford just sat back and put 10 men behind the ball, and that had to break us down, and we figured out a way to do it on a set piece. So there's a long way to go. But
96 minute, and for the record, I put Davinson Sanchez into my team just before this on my fantasy. 15 points, but a result is a result. We talked about City getting that Rodri goal. You get that goal from him. You need those. Sometimes it's luck. Sometimes it's the run of play.
Quick thing, just jumping in real quick. You know what I find super interesting, and Stu on the comments brought this up, saying, hey, Arsenal lost to Everton, they lost to Villa. Yeah, but if you look at every normal top 6 team except for Man City, not a single one have consistently performed this season. Only Man City. Every team, whether it be Liverpool gets a tie here and a tie there and a tie here and a tie there, Chelsea are currently having a weird run of form. Arsenal started with a bad run of form. They're cleaning it up. Tottenham were all over the place at the beginning. Now they're cleaning it up. No one's been super consistent since the beginning of the year. It's kind of
JP, I don't know who needs to hear this. I don't know who needs to hear this on this podcast or anybody else, but I think people forget a little bit. It's the fucking Premier League. It's not La Liga. Yeah. It's not France. You're not bang on to win every week unless you're Man City right now. And it's what you want from any league, and that's why it's the best league in the world. You can lose to Southampton if you're Liverpool. That's not happening for Bayern Munich. They win 4-1, 4-0 every week. It's what makes it good. City's the only team we're seeing right now.
It's true, guys. It's true.
Has there been any effort to go game by game? What's going on?
Paul,
it's awesome.
Paul, instead of interrupting and it's literally what I was about to say to Connie. Let's focus on the game.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything to say about the Watford Spurs match? Yeah. If not, let's move on, because what I thought was a cracking game.
Wait, Brian, are you actually mad that I interrupted you before you had a chance to interrupt Dave?
Yes.
Double interruption?
Because there was an actual flow to my interruption.
Guys, we're moving on here. Crystal Palace hosting West Ham. West Ham go up 3-0, and Crystal Palace admirably pulled back 2 goals. Fantastic game.
Nearly got there.
Did you see the manager at full time though? Did you see Vieira? He was
losing it.
Yeah.
Raging. He'll get fined. Oh, he'll get fined, mate, for sure.
Oh, I think it was Crystal Palace's keeper though. He made a triple or 4 saves in the span of 12 seconds. It was insane. Unreal. He made one from the ground where he gets up and hits it back. Man, it was a great match.
No, it was really good, and I do think Crystal Palace are improving, but West Ham are having a great season. I think Mikel Antonio, scoring again was big for him, big for West Ham, because he's been on a bit of a drought. Exactly, but 100%. Really entertaining game, a lot of goals. It's what you want to see, but you know what, Vieira, he's doing not bad so far. Moving along, you boys won't like this. Brentford hosting Aston Villa. Brentford 2, Villa 1. Gents, I watched it. Brentford were value for the win. Luke, I'll start with you. What were your thoughts on this one?
We've not beat this team, I think, in the last 8 or 9 appearances against them in different leagues. They're just a bogey team for us, and we just. So this was really simple. We obviously missing Watkins before the kickoff. That was a massive kick, especially from a fantasy perspective. And I think his speed, kind of getting behind the last defenders, was really missed here. Ings doesn't have the same legs. And I think what really killed Villa was just we just weren't moving the ball well. We made sloppy errors, and we had no killer instinct. Like we really sat back and let them come on us. And if we'd taken the chances in the possession that we had, again, we would have had a number of goals. And it would have been a very different game. But we were just not clinical enough, and that's Villa's biggest issue right now, because we're actually playing pretty decent football defensively, not too bad. I'm sure there's little bits here and there, but there was that is the standout for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
JP, what say you? I thought that second goal for Brentford is a tough one to give up defensively. JP, what do you think about the game?
Yeah. It's funny because we have a Villa chat going on, and after the game, during the game, I looked at my phone and it said new notification, and it said Luke Conley, and then it said, God dang it, Courtney House again. And then I looked and it wasn't there. He deleted it because the guy he wanted to replace Tyrone Mings was in, and I personally fault him for both goals. I fault him for both the goals. He got far too much separation for the first goal, and on the second goal, he decided to thigh the ball instead of just clearing it out with a knee or a jumped volley.
I don't think you
should
should blame for both, but yeah, I got to be honest, I kind of ummed and ahed because I forgot terribly.
Yeah. And so when not just Luke, but some other Villa fans hit on Mings for not being quality enough, or not being like the defender they believe him to be, I just look at who we have and I say, A, who else do we have that's better than him? And B, when you're missing 2 of our 4 best players in Mings and Watkins, we're obviously going to miss something a little up top. We're going to miss something in defense, and it showed.
But
Brentford had like 3
Mings
shots
being
on goal.
better than Courtney Horse doesn't make Mings a good player. That just makes.
But it might have changed the result.
An average player. I don't think it would have. I think it was the lack of clinicalness, and I do agree though. Like I think Courtney has been very good for us coming in when he's been needed for the last couple of weeks. He's he's not as sharp as he needs to be, but we've known that about him. But it was a lot for him. And who else we were missing? And then Matty Target was just absolutely just like, and I think you talk about transfers, and I know we'll get into it, but expect to see him out the door or him benched because he's just not cutting it. He's not cutting it.
I'm interested to see who you guys want to bring in, given some of the comments you just made. Moving along here, Everton.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah. I just want to go to a comment real quick from we got one of our folks watching, Stu. Stu says the EPL actually has more errors leading to goals than the Bundesliga, despite playing largely low box and being cowards. Bundesliga more positive, less errors. Facts don't lie. Stu, I feel like just because you named a couple of specific statistics that suit your position
narrative,
your narrative, it doesn't necessarily make it true. So what I would suggest is, and what I think might be a good idea, Stu, send us an email at thenorthendpodcast@gmail.com. Let's have you on the channel and let's do a debate between what makes each of these leagues good and why. Because I think it's actually a fun conversation. So we'll figure out when we would do it. But appreciate the thought. Yeah, appreciate the thoughts, Stu.
Great comments, Stu.
Yeah, than's for being here.
Comment, but I want to fully engage, but he's probably. That's why I said. I'm just gonna say he is probably right. But the reasons why there's more errors in the Premier League is because there's less space and there's more pressing and there's more defenders
it's faster
who know
and
what they're
harder
doing.
to play. Again, that's my point. It's a conversation. But Sean, Stu, if you want to send us an email because we'd love to do it.
We love it.
It'd be fun.
Borussia Dortmund would finish 12th in the Prem. Everton hosting Brighton. Dominic Calvert-Lewin back, and something he did very well at the beginning of the season before he got injured was score penalties.
Yeah.
Misses a penalty. Brighton, I thought, were the Brighton of the beginning of the season, played excellent, but a couple of young players getting goals. Gordon gets 2 goals for Everton. But honestly, outside of his performance, I don't know who Everton are anymore. But they're
bereft of quality.
Yeah, but Brighton, for me, I watched this game. They were just the
really.
better team, and Paul and I talk about them all the time. But Basuma in the midfield was.
Gosh.
He's on your list, right? He's on your list.
Oh, he's on. He's
Be on
honestly
everybody's list.
He is. He is
He's
on
my fantasy team.
He's
on his
playing
own
on another
list.
level. He's playing on another level. I know he had some problems a couple weeks ago. Looks to be cleared up. He was, for me, the standout man of the match. Brighton just going on, having a great season. McAllister with 2 goals. Mope playing well. Brighton
Fun
looking
fact,
good.
Connie, without just very quickly, McAllister, where is he from?
He's Scottish, is he? Or is he Irish?
No, he's Argentinian.
Come on.
How much?
What?
Alexis McAllister.
Come
I saw it, and I just listened. I had match of the day on just a moment earlier on. And I was like, "This is great goal by the Scottish international." I was like, "What?" I thought that must have been a mistake because he looks Scottish. Sorry, Argentinian international. I'm like, "What?" And he scores again. They said Argentinian, and I'm like, "No,
You know
that
what?
can't be
They,
right."
they
He's
need to start breeding Argentinian Scottish football players. Maradona
I'm
mixed
telling
with
you.
some. With
He's a
some
Boca kid, according to Stu.
sticking the head in.
Colin Hendry.
Yeah, Colin Hendry.
Can you imagine
But-
that? That'd be a great.
But I think the Calvert-Lewin penalty really, really hurt them because Brighton's up 2-0 at that point. That would have made it 2-1. But guys, I know we're talking about it, but Everton, Rafa, is he on the hot seat more than anyone right now?
Yeah.
I think he is.
Did you
right?
hear
I think
the
he has
comments?
to
Did you
be.
hear the comments he made?
No.
Like the comments he made after have a listen to his post match interview, and it is incredible. He basically comes out and says, so we're working and we're making some changes now, and we're very keen to get Everton back to what we were doing, where we had players that wanted to play here playing, bringing in players that there is something going on behind the scenes, and there is people that he wants out the fucking door because he looked he was raging, mate. He was raging.
Rafa is known to be a very cold manager, a guy that isn't necessarily the reach out to the player, make sure they're
Arm
doing
around
great.
the shoulders.
He's not that guy. And so, when you got players like one of the fan favorites was Lucas
Digne.
Digne not playing and getting transferred out of the club. There is some stuff going on there.
He's on his way out, actually. But
if we step back a little bit, I think we're all aware that club was poorly assembled, and that any manager who was going to come in was going to probably have to do a little bit of a what's working, not working, and then gutting of the team, because they built a team that was just like, I'll have a little bit of that and a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it was like there was no seeming direction to it. They bought a lot of quality players, but none of them really seemed to fit, and then they changed managers 3 times since the start of this big spending. So I don't know. They may have to be a little patient and decide whether or not it's just a situation where they have to grin and bear it until they get out of this and Rafa's still the guy, or legitimately the board thinks they've got the players to do much better than this, even with the injuries they've had, like having no striker, and that Rafa should have done better than this. But I don't know. My gut says it's I don't really know how you're supposed to get a tune out of this selection of players on a consistent basis, especially when Dominic Calvert-Lewin, their one reliable striker, has been injured for the bulk of the season so far.
I still think he should be getting more out of the squad that he's got than he has been, and whether that's his style or whether that's just the new players coming in. This Everton team has spent a lot of money in the last couple of years, but Paul's right. To be chopping and changing managers for Everton with the amount of this club, as a fan, you can't say you haven't got an investment, and that's what you want more than anything, right?
No,
you want to be backed by your owners, and they've been given that. They bottled it. They have bottled it, and whether it's going to be a Rafa decision on the manager or whether he's going to be given the decision, and this is the new thing in the Premier League, if you trust your manager and your directors, let him clear house and bring people in that are going to play for you and your style, but that's a whole other thing. Let's move on. Leeds hosting Burnley, 3-1 Leeds. Did anyone need a result maybe more than Leeds, considering the way they've started the season?
Burnley.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, the answer would be Burnley. Burnley are not a good football club, guys. I watched Manchester United play again. Manchester United are horrendous right now. They didn't play well, and they comfortably beat them 3-1. They should have beat them more. I thought Leeds were the better team. Burnley, Burnley have no offense. Their defense is suspect at best. Good win for Leeds. They needed it. They need to climb out of that relegation situation. what do you guys think? Anything more to say about Leeds or Burnley here?
I don't think we need to spend a heck of a lot of time on it. I think it was
it
was an expected result, but also there was that little bit of maybe Burnley could do a Burnley because sometimes they're uncomfortable. But yeah, Leeds are the better side, and I hope Leeds stay up and Burnley go down if that's an option.
Which I think is likely. I
don't think Leeds will have any problems once they start getting healthy. I think they'll pull it. They'll get to a comfortable place.
They'll get a few extra wins and they'll get safety. I mean, but the crazy thing is Burnley is still only 2 points away from safety. They're not that cut adrift yet. So
they're not.
No. There's 4 teams there. Really,
there's room. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
Yep.
But Burnley have two. I mean, this is where you have to start doing math. Burnley have 2 games in hand.
Yeah. Similar. Yeah, for sure.
Moving on. Great match of football. Chelsea hosting Liverpool.
Riveting.
At the Bridge. High tempo. Liverpool go up 1-0 through Sadio Mane. Bit of an error, I would say, by Chalobah on Chelsea. A little frustrating. They capitalized, and then Mo Salah came in from the right, scored what I would consider to be
such a
world
great goal.
class. He's the best player on the planet, and I'm not hearing any arguments, and I don't think anyone would disagree. So 2-0 up at the Bridge, Liverpool. Fucking Chelsea. Kovacic with a worldie 2-1, and then Pulisic with another. Yeah, and then Pulisic.
Finally.
Pulisic with another world-class finish as well.
Long overdue from Pulisic.
Yeah.
Only 3rd goal this season.
He's not a goal scorer, but it ends honors 2-2. A good match. I think if you're Liverpool being up 2-0 with how strong you are, you probably feel like it's points dropped. But what a performance by Chelsea. I was very impressed. That was my main takeaway, gents. I don't know about you, but was the resiliency to come back, and I thought they played exceptionally well in this game. Liverpool, we know what they are. They're a great team. Chelsea showed me more than what I thought they were. I thought.
I do think Liverpool ran out of gas a little bit, and I think maybe it's something to do with the current fitness situation within the club. They weren't able to play today. COVID going through that squad and that club. So they looked really good for like a period of time, and then it looked like they fell off. And then when they fell off, obviously Chelsea are good enough of a team to take advantage of it, and they did very much so. That was sort of what I saw. I was still super entertaining. Obviously, lots of back and forth. There was, especially that first 15-20 minutes was incredible to watch. Just like bam, bam, back and forth. Very open game. But Liverpool took advantage early, and Chelsea took advantage of what I perceived as a tiring Liverpool side.
How about the goalkeeping performance?
Oh.
Sorry, JP.
Mendy.
Sorry if Mendy had a cracker, but also Liverpool's goalkeeper had a very, very good.
He was great.
Well,
that save he came out with it, and it was a breakaway, and it looked like, oh my god, it's a goal, and he got his hand on it. What a save that was! That was incredible.
It's brilliant. What a step up. Imagine replacing Alisson. But yeah, JP.
Yeah. Does anybody think Mane's 1 minute yellow card should have been red?
Oh, we should talk about that. Good call. So
I don't think so.
20 seconds. 15 what?
15 seconds.
15 seconds into the game. It's an elbow.
Red in the Premier League.
It's an elbow right into the face. Watch it again. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
It's a forearm.
It's a forearm into the face. It's a red card.
It makes a difference, right? Because when you jump and you're using your body and your forearm hits a face, compared to if your elbow does,
not a red.
It's different. It's not a red.
I thought it was.
Yellow card. And it's a nasty yellow, but it's a yellow card.
They didn't even go to VAR. They didn't go to VAR.
Because the referee on the pitch made the right decision.
Disagree.
Hold on, Brian. Okay. It's one thing if a guy jumps up and two guys jump up and you use your elbows and you hit him. It's another thing when you jump.
Forearm. Stop saying elbows.
Okay, fine. Forearm. It's another thing if you jump and go forward with your forearm into the dude's face.
But
and that's
what he
did.
Forward.
He didn't jump
make any
up.
sense, dude.
He jumped forward into the guy.
There's no malice at all.
I'm a JP. Red for me. Decider. Because Luke and Brian feel the other way. Decide it for us here, Paul. Red or no red?
I'm happy that it wasn't a red. It was a very enjoyable game, and I think 8 seconds into a game with a red card would have taken the steam out of everybody. So as a guy who's just like, wow, this is a really cool game. 2-0 up, and then Chelsea come back to just tie it. Like, yeah, I'm happy with it not being a red. I can definitely see it being a red later in the game. Like if some shit like that happened like later in the game, and the ref probably was forced. But it's one of those calls where I think the ref was like, no, don't look at me, man. I don't want to. Come on, this game just started. I just blew the whistle.
You probably surmised it perfectly, Paul. We move on to Monday. Manchester United hosting Wolves. Wolves 1-0. I don't want to talk about it. You talk about it, Paul, because I'll fucking snap if I have to talk about this game.
Sure,
I'll literally snap. So I'm shutting up. Go ahead, Paul. Tell me everything.
Man United are very kind and generous hosts, and we care for what our visitors' experience is like, and we really want to give them the most that they possibly could on the day, and that's what we gave them. We gave them the entire midfield. Because again, we were feeling like generous and capable hosts. It's like serving cheese and wine for your guests, except it looked like the entire midfield, and that's what we gave them. And I think they had a good time. I think they enjoyed themselves. Those Wolves players. So yeah, that's my entire take. It's if you want to know what's going on with United right now, there's a bunch of different things. It's all piling on to each other. It's like a concacaphony of shit.
Go ahead. Look,
I'll ask you a question. Paul Ince made some very, very interesting comments, and Paul Ince basically said that they should be giving the captaincy to McTominay because based on that performance, he was the only one showing passion. And for me, that showed me everything that you need to know about Paul Ince and what he thinks. And he also was talking about the ineptitude of the manager, which again, for a man that has done literally nothing in managerial football, needs to have a look at himself. But is it that bad as a United fan? Like when you have ex-United legends talking about making kids
First of all, Man United legends are making careers off of being sensationalist every single.
Oh yeah, I'm not
every single game.
I'm saying,
and it's like across the board. Like for me, it's like we're not that good a team. We never were this entire season. Like we had a manager get fired, and then we got a new manager come in, and like, are we all surprised that they're still continuing not to play that well, and then. Nobody's really talking about it, but this is the first game he's lost as a manager at Man United. This is his first loss. And all of a sudden, the world is on fire. And we lost to a Wolves team that are very good. I think they've allowed 2 goals in 8 games. I think they pressed Liverpool and Man City to limit. Like, they're a very good team, and they're a very good midfield. And then there's just things that nobody's saying. It's like, well, Man United have a new manager that comes in, and then COVID hits. He's been working with the team in groups of 6 and has had training ground closures and has been there for like less than a month. So is that maybe the more plausible solution or reason behind them looking disjointed and a little bit tactically like unfamiliar with the system?
I'm with you, man. I feel you.
Like it's just all this shit, and then there's so much sensationalism about people like drawing like conclusions on people's motivation, and like Marcus Rashford's doing too much for the people and needs to focus on the football.
If I could sort of counter that somewhat, Paul, if you don't mind, I think that despite that, and I agree with you, I think that most of what you said is true, and I think that considering the situation the league is in and teams are in, and it's such a difficult thing to get through. Spurs are one of the teams to first go through it, and you've kind of seen it go through different teams, and United have dealt with it. And of course, having a new manager at the same time of that is incredibly difficult. Having said that, you have a very good squad when it comes to the players that played against Wolves. It didn't seem to me, and I think this is where Connie's probably struggling, and where I would too if it was my team, it is the effort level, the energy, the how much it looks like they care or not. Now that could also come down to, and totally fair enough, their fitness and where they're at when it comes to how healthy they are. But it looks to me from when you're watching certain players walk around the pitch, run around the pitch, that their interest isn't there, the energy isn't there, the effort isn't there. You want them to put it out there, even if they're crap. If they're crap, but they put their heart on their sleeves and they work their asses off and still lose, it's fine. But when you lose and you don't work hard, it's really hard to take. Yeah, and I think that's kind of where
Brian, I have no problem with what you just said. I have problems when people start picking on the new manager, where I'm like,
right, which is fair too.
These guys don't have Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in front of them anymore. Ole would say, yeah, we had a bad game, my fault, and protect these guys constantly.
Right.
This is not new. This group of players has something in them that can be just I don't know, lazy or uninspired or whatever it is. I actually I don't know what it is. I struggle with it, but there's a few players there that you can just kind of go across the board and be like, that's not fucking good enough. And that's
spoiled
not good
brats,
enough.
basically.
And Brian, you nailed it.
Or
you nailed
it could be like, you know,
Yeah.
you don't want to pick on any individual players, but like, do you think you made it because you're at Man United and you've got a big paycheck? Do you think that was the end goal?
True.
Like, and again, this is like,
I don't know.
I don't know. I asked that question, but what I get annoyed by is when all these guys get on camera and start talking about like they know the inner workings of these players' minds, and they say all this shit.
No idea.
And not one of them are saying things like, "Well, maybe these guys are like, I mean, if half the squad had COVID, are they still recovering from that? Does anybody actually know what recovering from COVID looks like?
How fit are they? Yeah.
Like, how fit are they? Like,
Yeah.
is that really the manager's fault? Or like, do we even know? Like, you might think a guy's ready for selection, but then he goes out and 60 minutes in a Premier League pace, he's fucked. But like, for me, the biggest thing is you look at that selection and it was kind of forced. We are not going to break down a good Wolves midfield with McTominay and Matic.
No.
And we didn't really have any other options to pick from. And
you're also
I'm
Bruno
okay with it.
Where was Donny Van Der Beek?
Well, Van Der Beek and
this
Fernandes.
is Connie.
but-
Well, I want to talk a little
yeah.
bit Van Der Beek. Van Der Beek, I will mention this one thing. Everybody talks about Van Der Beek like he's this missing piece that we're just refusing to play. And yet 3 different managers who work with him in training, week to week, day to day, who see what he applies, to see what he brings, to see what he's doing, not one of them has picked him.
Totally.
But nobody's really saying, well, isn't that more telling than this guy that we all liked when he was at Ajax? And he had a really good season when he was surrounded by superstar Ajax players, but not a great season when we signed him, by the way. I just feel like there's we're giving this guy this missing piece, like he's the dumbest thing that we're not seeing. We've had 3 managers not pick him.
Hold on. How
What's
about
happened with Fernandes?
I can answer
Hang
that.
on,
I'll tell you very quickly. Van de Beek, Paul nailed it. 2 managers have seen something in training. They watch him every day. He's not getting selected for a reason. Van de Beek, to your point, JP, you know why he's not getting selected? New manager is coming in. He said, "This is the way I play football." And you know what the number one requirement is? You fucking work your ass off. And even when Bruno was here, when he
that's
came
not
in,
what I was meaning, though.
Bruno was getting free
I think
reign.
Misunderstood.
What's your question about Bruno Fernandes?
I feel like we've
asking.
said this over time, where it's like McTominay and Matic and Fred, they don't really have what is needed as like a 2 center mid play. So why don't try and just change it up? But it seems like we keep coming back to this. Okay, why do they keep playing these 2 guys? But then you're saying, okay, but Donny Van de Beek isn't good enough. It's like, but how many times have we actually seen like?
And we'll get into it later. We'll get into it later.
No, but like we don't need to see it for it to not work. The managers can tell it's not working by seeing it in practice.
Yeah,
like we don't need to. They don't need to prove that to us. Like we have to be able to say, well, he's not doing something clearly. Like,
and of course,
clear.
I'm gonna bring it back to Spurs to some extent. And there's a player at Spurs, a defender who's struggled to get into the side, and we've watched him play. Came from Swansea, Wales international, supposed to be, this.
Who?
White?
Ben Davies?
No, he's
no.
Well,
Yeah,
Ben see, this
Davies.
is
It
it.
was a
I'm
very
having a brain
random
fart.
sign.
I'm
If you lead with it, know his name.
No, I know, but
Ben Davies.
No, it's not Ben Davies. He was at Swansea like last season in the
last
championship.
season.
Anyway, it'll come to me. It doesn't matter. Point is he's been under 3 managers, and this is my point. 3 of the best managers on the planet, and he's never gotten in the side. Those managers know them more than we do.
Exactly.
That's the point. I think that Paul's trying to make. It's like you accept the manager. It's like you trust experts, right? And the experts.
Yeah, no.
Joe Roden. Sorry, Joe Roden is the player I was thinking of. Joe Roden has struggled to get into Spurs side, but he won player of the season. Not even just Swansea's player of the season, but player of the season in the championship two seasons ago. But can't get into Spurs side.
When he was playing with Ben White, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. There's a bigger point, Connie, and I want to ask like 2 little points. So number 1 is how did you feel about seeing Phil Jones on a pitch wearing a United shirt? Like,
I thought it was fantastic. Honestly,
I
thought it was fantastic, and happy for him. Like I joke about him as a fan. I think he should have left the club, and I do believe that. But to see a guy work for 2 years and watch him crying as he's going off the field because fans are chanting his name—that's the human part of it. I was very happy for him.
He also played really well.
He played awesome.
He did, and so that kind of
minus the giveaway for the goal.
Is, we say the same thing about
Well,
United, and it's where Paul kind of got ripped into by me and Brian when we're talking about transfers and stuff, and we said, and we're seeing it. That one missing piece is that central defensive midfielding kind of players. It's just not working. You're tearing into Fred one week, then it's McTominay, then it's this. Like I start to wonder though. There's players. Phil Jones was played in different positions other than a centre back. He's been deployed in a CDM before, and I'm starting to think: is there a potential player that maybe isn't getting a look in? Because that is where you drastically need change. And it's like,
No, there isn't.
Is he 36?
No, he's not. He's like 29.
He's nowhere near me. He's nowhere near me.
He's like
nowhere near me.
29.
I thought Phil Jones was an old man.
No.
I don't know.
No,
Luke thinks John Joe Shelby is 22 still. So.
But it's a levels thing, though, right, guys? And I think the problem with United
you when you were
is
pooing.
United are run as a business, right? So I think, they brought in Ragnick to say, listen, we need to get you back on track. I think the problem they've had is they've been buying name players. From what I've heard is Ragnick has come in and he's spoken very frankly behind closed doors to all the players saying, you're not doing this stuff, and you're not good at this. And right now, from what I understand and from what I've read, and apparently the leaks are real, there's a real issue in the dressing room. A lot of players are unhappy, but guess what? You don't need names. You need people who are going to come in and work for the shirt. There's going to still have to be a lot of people who are going to have to leave this club, and there's a lot of work to be done. I'm going to get into it when we talk about transfers, but I think we're getting close. Like top 4, there'd have to be a major turnaround, but I'm still at the point where I think there's players that need to go and other players need to come in because your general work rate for the manager should be number 1. And you ask why Bruno Fernandes is not playing because of that. And there's others as well.
I'm going to be the first guy that says, we've had 4 interrupted weeks of training with a new manager. I still fully expect by 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, we're going to start seeing improvements. I'm not the complete sky is falling, the sensationalistic meltdown, all the stuff that's starting to get clicks and makes sound bites. It's too much for what it is. It's 4 weeks of interrupted management.
But what's a meltdown for United? If you finish out of the top 4 or the top 5, what do you think? As a United fan, what are you happy with this?
That is a meltdown.
But I am talking. So that's an outcome. That's not a meltdown. I'm talking about people's reaction and meltdown to our first loss under this new manager.
That's just football.
Hold on a second. Hold on. We'll move forward. We'll move forward. But I would counter that and say, Paul, the performances have been nothing short of abysmal. And to finish off here, the one thing I like about the new manager, he's recognized that. He says what he needs to say in front of the camera, but what I'm hearing is he's doing the business behind the camera on the training ground. But Paul's right. He needs more time, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I will always say this. He's not – I don't expect him to be our manager next year.
No.
For this guy to go in and actually get a handle on this team and see what the real weaknesses are and figure out what needs to be done to build this team and improve it. I'm more let's just get the shit out of the way. Let's see the bad performances so that he can put a plan in place to get us out of these bad performances, not necessarily as a manager, but to identify what we need, because our recruitment has been oh wait, you're the most expensive player available. Let's sign him.
Speaking about performances, guys, we're now on to our star player of the week, but not bad performances, good for performances. Paul, I'm going to let you lead us in, and I'll pop it up when you're ready.
With a dominant display in midfield alongside a certain player who's going to help him a lot, it has to be said, N'Golo Kanté. Our star player of the week is none other than Mateo Kovacic from Chelsea. Scores a fantastic volley goal from outside the box, has 11 ball recoveries, 80% pass accuracy, 6 out of 6 tackles made, with a Who Scored rating of 8.6. You will be sent a code for ISO Date, our official partner and sponsor of the Star Player on North End Podcast, so that during these long, lonely hours of isolation, you can meet somebody special. Congratulations, Mateo Kovacic.
Well done. Before we move, this is a very underrated footballer, and I think because he plays next to Conte, he doesn't get the credit. They bought him for $15 million, and he's another example of a player I was clamoring for. Real Madrid, $15 million, and he's phenomenal. And I love watching him play.
15.
15 million. Yes, cheap. And they weren't even searching for him. He ended up there. Just poor recruitment by other teams not grabbing him. Great player.
But also it has to be said, he was something like 50 million for Real Madrid when they bought him initially, and it just
it wasn't that much.
Work out.
And dude, you're not gonna. You're not going to get into a midfield with Casemiro, Cruz, and Modric, so you got to make decisions.
I don't know why you're defending the situation. It highlights how good a deal he was for Chelsea.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I think the only
your default doesn't have to be argument, Connie. We could be saying the same thing different ways.
I don't think he was 50 million. He was maybe like 20. But like,
oh my God, Juan passed the price.
Sorry. Go ahead.
The only thing I would be concerned about here would be the pass accuracy would be at 80%. But I recognize in the midfield that it's a lot harder to have consistent pass accuracy, but that's pretty low. But the tackles one in the who scored rating
against Liverpool. Against Liverpool, though, you have to factor that in, Brad.
Yeah, but it's not Liverpool's midfield that you'd typically see. What's up? So, but still, I mean, it's only one statistic. I'm not saying that changes his performance. He was brilliant in this game, and his goal was cracking. So, shout out to Mateo Kovacic. Well done, sir. Well done for making it to our
I'll make his week.
Has anybody noticed?
It's gonna be like, oh my God, that was incredible.
Has anybody noticed Stu is blowing up our comments?
Dude,
with just like
I think Stu. I want to shout
visceral. It's visceral.
I think Stu is it seems like a wonderful human, but maybe trolling us a little bit, which is fine. We don't mind that at all. I think he's taking the piss on a few things. And this is a funny. This is a funny question from Stu. Question: I thought Cristiano Ronaldo took sweets off the United menu. Does this mean Maguire and Shaw are sneaking chocolates when CR7 ain't looking?
I don't think Shaw can give up the chocolate.
Wouldn't be surprised too. Wouldn't be surprised.
Says a lot of chocolate in that, dude.
Yeah, topical questions for United shapeless struggles. Again, great troll in there, Stu. Appreciate having you. Pleasure.
Come back.
Fantastic. Yeah, come back again. And again, email us because we'd love to have you on and argue about the Bundesliga versus the Premier League if you still want to have that argument. I do think now though it is time to get into our transfer transfer special. We're gonna start with Aston Villa this week. We've got obviously two supporters. We got JP and we got Luke, who are both Villa supporters, but who vehemently disagree on a few things, which I think is interesting for the conversation. Luke, you don't have a lot of time with us, so we're gonna let you start off. Tell us the player, and I'll bring up the name, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, okay, so let's start with Hickey. You should have him there. Scottish left back. Very, very decent player. So moved from Scotland, young lad. I think he's 20 years of age. Moved to the league and has been playing fantastic football for Bologna. Gerard obviously knows a lot about him, having seen him play against Rangers and kind of around in Scottish League, and is a big fan of him. And we don't have to look too far to not see a couple of great Scottish left backs. You got to feel for him. And all of a sudden, if he is this really good Scottish left back, he's looking at Andy Robinson and Tierney ahead of him. So it is a tough time. But Villa are desperate for a left back. Matty Targett had a very strong season last year, but I think Matty Targett, when we signed him, Southampton were saying that they were happy to get rid of him because they just didn't think he was quick enough for the Premier League, and we're seeing that, and he's week in, week out, looking really weak at the back for us. So, getting that player that can get forward in the same way that Matty Cash does would be a huge add-on for Villa. A 15 million pound deal for this lad. It's a great price, and it's I've spoken to a lot of players and a lot of Villa fans, and they're very keen on this player. So very excited by that one. That's the first. JP.
I'm gonna jump in on the guy that I believe would change Villa tremendously, and it's gonna be in the Paul Forrest mound. It's Dennis Zakaria. I'm gonna go with Dennis. Sure, yeah, that name.
Yes,
Dennis Zakaria.
Fucking yes.
Butcher the name. Go ahead, butcher the name.
I think
that's on screen now. You can people.
That doesn't mean I can say it right. Like things are just said differently than I expect them to be said. Hooked on phonics did not work for me. 25 million. He is not going to be worth 25 million very soon because he is in the last 6 months of his contract. He is going to be up for free this summer. So when he might be worth 25, but if they get an offer for 10 to 15, I think they should take that and run with it. He is at holding mid. He's a Switzerland national team player. He's 25 years old. He's not at Dortmund. He's at Borussia Mönchengladbach. So I don't know why.
How come no one could pronounce anything on this? It's Borussia Mönchengladbach.
So I want to apologize if I've gotten any of these things wrong. I did these in the last hour before we started.
So
it's okay.
Or that German team. If you can't remember, they went viral. A pub in England was trying to write.
Stu knows. Stu in the comments is going to get pissed at us for getting it wrong. So
I like
cheers,
Stu.
dude.
I'm about
Stu, hop on and tell us how to pronounce it. It'll be great. Go on then.
Yeah.
But he's also 6'3". He is that tower in the holding mid that
fella, isn't
so many teams need. Stu, fuck off.
Hey, easy on. He's
sorry. He's new. Sorry, Stu. Kindly,
we love you,
off.
Stu. Kindly.
So I think he would transform not just Villa's midfield, but also a Manchester United who might actually be looking at like a player just a step above him. So there's that. Luke, you want next one?
It might be worth mentioning that he's also come off a fairly major injury. I think he missed an entire season with I think it was a knee injury.
But he has been playing recently, and I'll be chatting about him later, and I'll do a better job describing his style of play.
It's less of a thing in football, but like in American football, everybody would really be aware of a running back's ACL issue or the knee issue of a wide receiver. He's got one of those issues where it has to be counted into like his reliability. Like he had a good season last year, but he had and again, Stu, I'm sorry, but he had a good season in the much more open format of the Bundesliga. Not necessarily the same pace and same challenge physically. And we have seen guys like a Thomas Partey come into the EPL, and if they've had kind of bumps and grinds in their body, it gets highlighted and comes back to the surface in the EPL. So it's the only knock I've heard on this player is that he's got a significant injury in his past fairly recently.
Who you guys got up next, Villa?
We've got a couple of interesting ones, but we should probably move on to one that's going to be on a lot of people's lips. Philippe Coutinho, a little known player from a Premier League legendary team that was Liverpool. Humongous money signing. Off the top of my head, was I think 135 million euros to Barcelona.
163 or something like that.
Yeah, so about 135 million pounds. Then so huge transfer went over. We know how good this player is. He's had a really rough time the last couple of years. I just think why he did so well at Liverpool was they had just a team that was so built around him, and he was really that kind of tactician to kind of get it, and the creative kind of little genius. Obviously off to Germany, did pretty well there, then went back to Barcelona, is having a rough time, and he's it's known that he's available. So a number of teams looking at him. There's a number of Premier League teams looking at him. I'm sure, Bri, you'll probably mention him as well. But as of right now, Fabrizio and a lot of these top transfer boys and girls are saying that Villa are leading this conversation, and I'm about it. I am about it. I think we are still missing Grealish. I think that creativity, and I think he's not Grealish, but he definitely offers a very unique style of play that could fit in very well at Aston Villa, and I think he might be that little missing link that we're needing between the mid and those that forward option. How do we really get those working? So I'm all about it, and if we can pick him up for about 15 million, even if it doesn't work out, it's not so big of an issue.
It's a good price for a player of what we would think to be the quality that he is at. Of course, he's not at that quality anymore, and this is sort of the thing that we struggle with. I know, I've been asked the same question, Luke, from a Spurs perspective, which we'll get into.
Yeah,
is that whether or not of course, he's not the player he used to be, but does he offer the right thing in that position that you need? Spurs are desperate for a creative midfielder to get from that defensive midfield to the forwards. We don't have it at the moment after losing Eriksen. Is he a player who can offer that, similar to what has happened to you with Grealish? So I completely get it, and that's what you're looking for, that little bit of extra guile, that little bit of extra quality that's going to get, from a creative perspective, that's going to break those lines. And I think Villa and Spurs both struggle with that at the moment. So
he's done it in the Prem.
Good player, and he's a good player for both of those clubs, I think, potentially at that price. Because you're not losing a ton, like other than maybe the wage. I think the wages, he's at 100. He's asking for 150 million a week, or 150,000 a week, which is still a substantial amount. But if you work things out, depending on who's in your squad, you can manage it. But
boys, are we worried about Newcastle swooping in on this one?
Nope.
No.
Really. No. I don't think he wants to go there.
No, he doesn't. He knows that's a death trap. So, and
yeah, 100%.
Newcastle are only interested in
went
left
there.
backs and right backs right now.
Well, they went for Lucas
Digne.
Lucas Digne.
He already turned him down. He already turned him down.
You know who? You know what's finalized? Kieran Trippier is a done deal. Newcastle's first major signing.
A big one.
What do you make of that, Connie? Very quickly.
Good signing.
31 years of age. I don't know. For the money they paid and the wages they're giving him.
Set pieces listen, they're going to overpay.
them.
They're going to overpay everybody. He's a good player. He plays very well for Atletico Madrid. Is still keeping in good shape. He gets forward. He can cross the ball. It's a good sign. It was 12 million plus 16 million add-ons. It's not a lot of money.
I have a horrible feeling this is the smell of a Christopher Samba all over it. I not to the level that Samba was a failure, but that, you talk of disgraceful signings. Yeah, like
he'll improve them.
We'll see.
He'll improve them.
All right, Villa boys, you got one more for us, right?
All right, Joe. I think it's Joe Gomez. Is that what we got on there?
No, I don't have a Joe Gomez. So
who do you have?
No, was it Bubakar?
Yeah, I think you.
No.
I think you and United had Bubakar. Boubacar Kamara, central defensive midfield player from Marseille at 22.5 million. Give us your thoughts, JP.
He is also out of contract in the summer, if I am not mistaken. He's another one, but he's younger. I think he's what? 18?
He's 22. He's 22.
Okay, my bad. He is 22. He is already seen.
We'll add age to the slide. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I think
more work for me to
I put more emphasis on age. I think that kind of matters more when it comes to prices and stuff like that.
That's
but
fair.
He is one that has quietly torn up the French league and has done very well for basically what to me is an underperforming Marseille team, but he really does hold it down. He is considered one of the gems of the center defensive mid worldwide over. Pretty much every top team wants him. I don't think Villa have a chance in hell to get him, honestly.
Just desire more than anything.
He's that tier that I said that I think the Manchester Uniteds will be looking at, because he's a player that Real Madrid, Manchester United, Liverpool, they've all been scouting this player. But that central defensive mid is going to be a key spot.
He's a converted center back.
And
He
that's
is,
it.
yeah.
He can actually play in the center back, the center defensive mid, and a right back role.
And right back, yeah.
So, yeah,
it's true.
So he's
Modern
he's
player,
a very
really
versatile guy. And if I'm not mistaken, he's like 6'1", 6'2" as well.
He doesn't look tall at
he's
all
not.
in this photo,
He's
too. I was like,
no.
is he
In that
short?
Yeah, he looks about
He's
5'9".
short.
He's 5'9".
He
Look
looks
at those
short.
cat thighs, man.
He's-
Those things
he
are
ca-
tree
he can't have been
trunks.
a
How
center
do
back at
thighs
5'9".
affect height, by the way, JP? Just out of
They
curiosity.
can. Sometimes
If
the
they're long
taller
enough,
lads,
that's-
they need something a little bit
He
bigger.
looks short to me. That's definitely less than 6 feet,
man.
but it's hard to tell from a picture. But
It is hard to tell what's a
but
picture.
it seems
and
like a
ball.
quality player. So that wraps up our Villa situation.
Yep.
Pretty
Let's
much, and we were linked with Luca Digne, we mentioned as well, and that was quite sizable. But I think now that we've gone for Hickey, I think it's better. Although I am a fan of Digne, I think he's a cracking player. Obviously French international, and 29. I'd be very happy with that as well. But I think Hickey's younger, has more about him, and more to be molded to really have a career at Villa.
Nice.
I'm a little surprised that Jesse Lingard hasn't been attached to you guys, because he feels like
I'd love him.
I would have liked him more.
There's a few teams I just feel like there's a good fit for Jesse, and I like Jesse, so I want him to go somewhere where he'll work well. West Ham certainly, because we kind of know he's fit there before, but I think Aston Villa would be a good fit. I think Tottenham would even be a good fit.
I'd be shocked if he doesn't end up back at West Ham this month. I think it's got West Ham written all over it this month. He likes it there. They like him. It was a money situation. I don't think they're going to match the wages.
So without getting into would it happen or not happen, because we're not psychic, but would you guys be happy if that was a rumor emerged?
For
much.
Lingard, yeah, totally. But not if we get Philippe Coutinho. It's one or the other to me.
Would you prefer Coutinho or Lingard?
As of right now, I would prefer Lingard, because he's
I
done
think
better
Lingard
in the EPL more recently than Philippe Coutinho has.
That's a fair shout.
All right, well, we've done the Villa. Thank you, guys. Luke, if you got to go, let us know if you got to go, but stick with us when we talk about United. JP will obviously stick with
Luke.
us. Who wants to lead the Man U conversation? You guys can go back and forth like those two did if you want, or Connie can do what Connie does. Let me know.
I'm very prepared. Paul can jump in with his opinion. We can almost start off where we left off because I've got Kamara on my list. But Paul, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, is Luke going boom boom? Is he, like where's he going?
He's got stuff in his.
He's got stuff. He's got to get it out.
Yeah, it was Boubacar, right? It was Boubacar we had up.
It was
1 a.m, brother. And I people there.
Go ahead, Connie. Do your best for Boubacar. I'm going to step out for 2 seconds.
So Boubacar Kamara, we talked about earlier. United have massive problems in midfield, specifically defensive midfield. And what this guy is he's a guy that plays right in front of the back four, and really just his tackling ability and his pass accuracy. He really is, to JP's point earlier, he's a player on everyone's radar. I think that the reason why he's on my list, I'm not fully convinced by him. I think he would upgrade our midfield. I worry about the pace of the French league and that adaptation that I constantly talk about for him moving to the Premier League to see if he could adapt. But his vision of the game when it comes to tackling, retrieving balls, and passing, and just keeping that tempo and pushing that tempo, I think the biggest issue United have is when their midfield players do get it, they don't do a good job of transitioning into offense. I think this guy would be a huge upgrade on what United have. He's young. He's 22. So you have to think he can only improve. So, yeah, I think he would be a fantastic signing. And to look at a player who's going to be out of contract in the summer, you have to think a club like Marseille are going to want to cash in on him. So whether it's 20 million, 25 million, United are in a situation where if you watch the game against Wolves or any other, and it's not an indictment on their current midfield players, but they're simply not good enough. They're bottom half midfielders they currently have. They need midfielders now. And Kamara would be a great addition, and he'd be a great signing for United. Paul, what do you think about this guy?
I like this. I like this rumor. We've been attached to him before. He's got a far superior passing range than we have in our engine room right now. He reads the game very well, so he's right place, right time kind of a player. But when he is out of position, he's very pacey. So he's got a good engine on him as well. I like the possibility of him and Pogba, at least for the remainder of the season, seeing if that works out, because I do think there's something in the way they both play that could be complementary. What I like about United's midfield for once is that when I look at these young guys looking to take a step up, sometimes you worry that they won't want to go to a bigger club because they don't see how they could fit into that starting 11 or where the opportunities will come. Whereas now it's like any young midfield player would look at United as being bigger club, more money, and I know I can beat Fred and McTominay for a spot in that midfield. So I kind of like the possibility of these things for once. Like, we're not going to get necessarily beaten out by another club for some God knows what reason. So if he's going to be available for a reduced cost or even for his full value right now, I say fuck it. Like, if he's an improvement to our midfield, which I think he certainly is day one, I love this rumor.
Yeah, it would be a great signing. Let's see what happens. I know there's some discussion and it's heating up. Who do we got next, Bri? Should we go through? Should we go through?
You. Let's
go through Zakaria as well, because they've also listed him. I've got some additional comments about Zakaria. He's very similar.
Dennis Zakaria, right?
Dennis Zakaria, yeah. So Dennis Zakaria, he's on my list, and the price of Mönchengladbach, the amount of money that's being floated right now is as low as £6 million, because he's out of contract. He's made it very clear he doesn't. This is a signing. He's on my list because I.
Sorry, Paul. Connie, just to let everybody know who's watching. These numbers come from Transfer Market, based on the British pound. And that's where the valuation comes from, so everybody knows that. I should have probably said that from the top, but just to let you know.
And I think because of his current contract situation and him and his agent being very clear the past couple of weeks that he has no intention to re-sign, there's a lot of people circling the wagon. Like, this guy will move in January. I think the question is where, right? So my concern, he's got a lot of tools. He's very physical. He can tackle. It's that elite technical ability that you see from the players at Chelsea, at Liverpool, at Man City. They can take a pass and move. He fumbles a little bit. He'd probably be the last guy on my list, but I do think, just given what United have, his speed and his physicality, and even his ability to distribute the ball would be an upgrade on what we have. If we didn't sign him this window, would I be heartbroken? No, but we need any type of upgrade in the middle of the park, and for a fee of, let's say, 6 to 10 million, he'd be a good squad player. So I'd be happy with him. I know we've been linked to him, but so have like 6 or 7 other clubs, Liverpool, Real Madrid. So he will move. I do feel he will move because Mönchengladbach would be silly not to get some money. Paul, what's your take on Zakaria?
I kind of feel like he's bottom tier of the options we've been attached to. Sometimes United get attached just because it's convenient. Like, we're defensive midfield is required at Man United. This guy's out of contract. Easy story for a lot of people. I just don't think he's the caliber we're going for. And sometimes United do that thing where like we maybe get a little too picky and then we walk away from a window without having anything. And then it's another season gone by where we don't have a right winger or a right back or whatever the position is at the time. But with this particular window and probably even next summer, I feel like he's maybe 5 or 6 players ahead of him that I would say would prefer to see.
I think it's about right. I've got him in there because of the low fee, and I think he's got to go. And like I said, I take anyone, and I think United's thing is they're going to need outs before they have any ins. We have too many players, too many offensive players. We talk about Lingard. Martial wants out. So I think with United, the way they've been doing it the last year or so, and it makes sense, players have to go before we bring them in because our squad is pretty large. Maybe let's go to Haidara next, if you don't mind, Brian Ireland.
Not a problem.
I love this guy.
Now, this is a guy who I would put back in the top tier, and I would think maybe might be. It's a toss-up between him and Kamara for me because this guy, and you want to talk about stature, he's small. He's 5'9", but his pace, his tackling ability, and his ability to press and move the ball, I find him to be a very complete defensive midfielder. But if Ragnick's going to be sticking around for 6 months and he wants to implement his way, this guy will move for you. He'll be a destroyer in midfield, and we've seen it recently. The top teams in the Premier League are moving at all times in the middle of the park. Matic can't move anymore. McTominay's been asked too much. This guy would be a great fit. I think he's got all the tools, and he's that workhorse that you need with the technical ability that you need in the Premier League. I think it would be a good transition for him. You're looking at probably, I would say 27 millions. Yeah, between 27 and 35 in and around there, but he'd be a player I'd be very excited to have. Paul, what's your thoughts on Haidara?
I certainly like the logic behind him. He's somebody who knows how Ralph wants to play. He's been identified with Ralph before. Ralph knows him. He seems like he's got an engine room. He is, that kind of joke that United fans have. We haven't replaced Ander Herrera since he left the PSG. Like, he's the kind of guy where I'm like, yeah, that's the kind of guy you need to have to put out there on the field occasionally. I don't know that he's got the culture that I maybe want from a ball-playing midfield player. But to add him to the mix, I'd be very excited with that. Like, get like certain games where you just need to have more intensity, more get up and go. He seems to play that way. I don't mean to say that he's not cultured, by the way, but there are certain players that are like Toni Kroos is a level of culture that I'm like, that's the bar, right? Like, this guy seems to have some really good passes in his locker, but like isn't the kind of guy that makes genius things look simple.
Question for you then.
Yes, sir.
Is a ball playing holding mid what United need, or do they need a ball winning holding mid?
Both.
Both, yeah, and you need both in the Premier League.
You need both, and you need one who can do both as well.
Yeah,
but also
exactly.
2 players who can do both.
Because that's my biggest question is like
massive requirement.
If United are going to, I always go, who's the number one target, right?
Conte is your bar.
Yeah, and N'Golo Conte.
N'Golo Conte. Well, this is a very similar N'Golo Conte type player, but nobody can do what N'Golo Conte does, and that is he's a ball winner, he's an interceptor, and he's a passer because he's also damn fast. Right, this guy is everything. 5'9".
So what's N'Golo Conte? 5'8".
But is this guy
Conte's small?
Is this guy a Conte-esque player? Is he going to be able to jump into the EPL and do that?
No.
I don't think anybody can set the bar as Conte and then hold that bar
that's
to
my
like.
thing.
I just mean
nobody is Conte but Conte.
As far as how you level things, right?
Right.
This guy to me is more of a box to box than a defensive midfield player. Right. But that's fine. Like, I still think we need to have reinforcements in the midfield, and it's not necessarily just a CDM. Like, I'm not sold on Scott McTominay as a CDM or as a box to box. I think Fred tries really hard, but he can go
struggles.
like weeks without like really having an impact in the game. He's good when we're like chasing the ball, but when we have the ball at our feet, he's different. We don't have a lot of tools in the toolbox anymore, depending on the midfield that we have selection or who we're up against. So even this guy who's not necessarily a Declan Rice style CDM is still, I like this attachment. I like that he's not some big name. I like that I had to look this guy up because frankly, I think all recruiting should be digging out gems instead of going out and finding,
it's way more entertaining.
Juan Basako is playing really well and he cost $50 million for Crystal Palace.
This isn't the United way. You got to do the United way.
Exactly.
You got to go for the big names.
No,
well, I'm sorry. Did you know Patrice Evra or Vidic before that he signed?
You probably never did. You probably
no,
didn't
we
know.
didn't.
No, but
that
is the United way.
No, it used to be United way. The
Right.
guys who did that are no longer at United.
All right, guys.
JP California, what I'm saying is I want to get back to the United way.
You're both saying the same thing. So here's what I'll kind of add.
But
on
he's
before
trying to
we
be
move to our
clever
next
with it.
guy. Like United probably have like
Trying
8 or
to
9
be
attacking
there.
players. They have three midfielders in McTominay, Matic, and Fred, because Pogba wants to play as an attacking midfielder. Bruno, Donny. We have 3 midfielders that are nowhere near good enough. So all of these guys that we mentioned so far would be a massive update. Now let's try a new position. Let's go to Mazraoui. This is an area where when Paul and I watch United games and we're messaging each other, the position at right back for Manchester United, the name was just mentioned, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and I thought he had a great first season. Nowadays, as a modern player for top teams in the Premier League, as a wing back or a right back or a left back, you have to be able to get forward. And all the better ones in the league can do it. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, when he gets past his own half, is shockingly bad. This guy who plays for Ajax is incredibly good going forward, and for a smaller guy, defends exceptionally well. He wouldn't cost a lot of money, and he plays fearless. I believe he's Swiss. He plays at a fast pace, tackles everything, gets forward, attacks the box, crosses. Manchester United need a right back almost as much as they need a box-to-box defensive midfielder. I think this guy would be great. Paul, I don't know if he's caught your attention. Oh, he's Moroccan, sorry. I was mixing it with somebody other player. He's phenomenal from what I've seen of him. I think he'd be a great addition. He's nowhere near being attached to us, but that right back position, I think he would be just a great upgrade. Probably more so in the summer, but I know we have a bit of a relationship with Ajax. Maybe if they want Donny back, we'll take this guy. I don't know. Paul, have you heard of him at all or no?
No, I've definitely heard of him. Ajax have been really impressive in Champions League this season, so I've watched every championship game I could see Ajax. It didn't help as soon as Ten Hag was attached to the manager job at Man United. I was like, oh, let's see what this guy's all about. So this particular right back stands out. He obviously has some talent. But for me, the January transfer window is not about getting a right back.
Yeah.
Wan-Bissaka is not a good fit for the style of play we're about to start setting up. He was maybe a good fit when we were playing the counter. He's a solid defensive one-on-one defender, but he's you can tell like his game is not going to be with the ball at his feet. A lot of players or a lot of people thought he would be like that because he used to be a winger before he became a right back. It's just not how things work out. I think Delot is serviceable for the rest of the season. I just think this is going to be a position that we don't strengthen in January, and we're going to probably look to like really kick the wheels of Ethan Laird for right back. So for me, I don't see this one happening.
You're probably right, but I mean, he's a player I'd love to have eventually, and I think he'd improve other than maybe like Liverpool or City. He'd improve any team in the Premier League. If you get a chance, check him out. But now I will finish with my golden gem, Yves Bissouma.
Oh,
This guy is at the top of my list, has been for a while. Let's bring him up in all of his glory.
I made it. I just have to find it. I might have to.
Did you hear what he said about himself?
I know.
No.
He said he literally, I think this was like the 3rd week of the EPL this season. He said, he said something like, don't misjudge me here. I am the best midfielder in the EPL.
You know what?
He was so confident and slightly arrogant, and I was like, "Ooh, I like that." It was very aggressive with it.
There was a thing today on Sky, and of course it got blown up. But it was like Man United are considering bids for Bissouma and Ruben Neves, and I just came all over my screen.
understandably so.
Oh,
if
man, those two with Pogba in front of them.
No, forget Pogba. Those two in midfield, I would almost guarantee you top 4. Honestly, because that's our biggest issue, and we don't need that. We don't need the picture, Brian, if you can't find it. But
no, I got
Basuma,
it. Just give me 1 sec.
Yeah, no problem.
I keep talking about it.
He is box to box. He can play defensive midfielder. I think he offers a lot more than people even give him credit for in attack. Has great footwork. He's very pacey. We've seen him play for Brighton. The EPL speed and physicality looks like a joke for him. He can catch almost anyone. He's elite.
Like upper percentile for take-ons and dribbles, and he plays as a deep-lying midfield player, which means he's dribbling out of press. Like
Paul, he's top 90th percentile in Europe for a defensive midfielder at Brighton. Yeah. Like this guy, and I don't care what anyone says, he is a premier player, and if it's not United, another team needs to be in. Because Brighton's the kind of team, if you throw 40 or 50 million, they don't have rich owners. They don't make a ton of money. You have to accept that $40 million bid.
It'll be hard to take it in January.
It's not West Ham. West Ham can say, "Hey, it's $100 million for Declan Rice," and what we've learned is they mean it, kind of.
Let's evaluate the situation in Brighton right now. They're sitting currently, I think, 9th. They're pretty comfortable this season. Yves Bissouma is going to be off at African Cup of Nations. Like he is
big loss for Brighton. That
he's already kind of a loss. So if you're going to make $40 million on a guy, and you don't even have him for the rest of the season, like there is a time where it's not convenient to do it, but you still have to do it. My gut says he's not a January. It's not possible. Because even like practical things, like I don't see anybody who's off at the Cup of Nations getting signed to a new team without being available for medicals and all the things that you just can't do when you're off in Africa. But if we got Kamara, let's say this transfer window, and then we went off and got Bissouma in the summer, I think every Man United fan should be like, wow, fuck, okay. Like, finally.
I think Bissouma is the best out of all of them. All the holy names we've said, I think he's the best.
Now, I want to ask this question, because this is like where it gets interesting. Do you think he's a better option or a better midfield player than Neves?
They're different, but I think for what United need right now, they need Bissouma more than they need Neves. And they need that physicality, they need that pace. And I'll tell you this: I don't have a massive problem with Nemanja Matic, except for the fact that he's old. He's slow. And he's like kind of like, you know what he is? He's the Juan Mata of Man United. He was like, people forget, he borderline won a title for Chelsea. He was the best defensive midfielder on the planet at one point. He can't keep up. The Premier League is run and gun. It's getting faster and better every season. And
unless you're Stu Mack.
Yeah, and I also feel bad for him even when he gets selected. Like he's doing the best he can.
He's tear it up in Spain.
So Bissouma can't. People forget he's effective getting forward. He can shoot. He can pass. There's not a lot.
We're kind of going off the question a little bit because again, if you're interested,
I would take Bissouma. I would take Bissouma.
I would actually say Neves for me.
Why?
I find his ball control and decision making with the ball at his feet and where he distributes like metronome like Michael Carrick in his heyday I just think that for a team that's going to dictate possession is so much more important than guys who can dribble out of a press. I love both these players. These players.
Aren't you thinking of just like the offensive version of it? Like I feel like your idea is like I need a midfielder.
Ruben Neves's defensive numbers are some of the best in the league.
Hold on, I didn't even finish. I feel like you want a player who will always make the pass instead of break up the play. And Neves, there are players that do both.
Neves does that better. I'm only taking Bissouma over Neves for physicality reasons.
Yeah.
As an actual box-to-box player, Neves is better. I think we need a destroyer more than anything else right now to run guys over, win tackles, and get the ball to the offense. But if I had Bissouma and Neves, he's like Paul's right. I would literally just.
All right, lads. We're an hour and 20 minutes in. We're gonna have to shift into my favorite thing.
Yeah,
I know you guys really don't want to.
See you guys later, guys. We should close it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, I'm actually looking forward to this, Brian, because I'm curious. I'm very curious.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with Frank Kessey, which I think is maybe one of the most realistic potential possibilities for Tottenham Hotspur to get. And of course, he is at Inter Milan and
AC Milan.
AC Milan. Apologize. And really, really kick-ass player. He's got all the statistics, all the things that Spurs are missing in a midfield that you need going forward and going backward. The price is pretty high, but there's been discussion about switching him with Tanguy Ndombele or perhaps Giovanni Lo Celso as well. He's been on Conte's radar, and if there's a manager that could get a player like this in January, I think his contract runs out at the end of the season.
There's a lot of players' contracts.
So it's a massive opportunity. He has specifically, or I should say, it has come out in the media that his management has said that he wants to move to the Premier League, and that there are a couple of clubs that he's looking at, and Spurs are one of the ones that he's focusing on the most, purely because of the manager and of course because of where they are and where he wants to go as a player. And this is a potential transfer that could happen in January. Not all of them can, because obviously AC Milan wouldn't make any money off of it if he goes for free in the summer. If they could make, I don't think it'd be 43. I think that's what he's valued at. I think we could probably
20.
get him for 25,
arguably. Probably less.
Probably 15 to 20, 22.
I think because of how much Spurs need it, and because of the sort of situation that the AC Milan are in, that they might be able to demand a bit more than in other scenarios. But yeah, it's not going to be the 43 valuation that we see. I think this is one of the this is a better version of Tanguy Ndombele. This is a player who has all of the attributes that Tanguy has. Maybe not the flicks and tricks, but the quality on the ball, the ability to see through the lines and to make the connection between the midfield, defensive midfield, and the forwards, something that would make Spurs really tick. The new, a new version of Dembele, not Tanguy Ndombele, but Dembele previously. So it's that type of player. I'm not saying he's going to do that, but he is that type of player. He has the attributes to do that. Low center of gravity, really good on the ball, really fun to watch. So yeah, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on it, because
I do. I have some comments on it, because again, we've been linked with him, and I think he's been linked with a lot because he's a very good player. He is a guy, Brian, and there's a reason he wasn't on my list, because he's got a lot of great attributes, and being out of contract is great. When I watch him play, and I've watched him a lot recently, whenever United are linked with someone, I pay a lot of attention. I think he would massively struggle with the speed of the Premier League. He's not a quick player. I'd actually go as far to say he's arguably a little bit slow.
Ndombele, though,
I know, but he also was doing whatever he wanted in France, right? We talk about that adaptation and how important it is.
Yep.
His speed and his movement, like I watched, and again, like you go back to Spurs, I go back to watching how long it takes McTominay and Matic to even collect the ball and move forward. I see that with Kessey a little bit, and I look at him and I worry if he would come and just be like, holy fuck, I can't handle this. I could be wrong. He could fit in like a glove, and I think if Spurs got him, I mean, you got to be happy with it for what you've seen of his body.
Yeah, I think he's been identified as the right player for what we need in the situation we're in, and I sort of have to trust Paratici and Conte and what they've done.
Box
so
to box, dude. He's a box to box guy.
We need that. We need somebody who's going to do that transition. We were supposed to get that with Lo Celso. We're supposed to get that with Tanguy Ndombele. Neither of those players have done remotely close to what they were supposed to, and this is the version of that. But anybody else have any more comments?
I got a quick question.
Shoot, Chippy.
Since Conte's come in, we've seen a resurgence of Winks. Where does Winks normally play for you guys?
Center midfield.
He plays in the center mid. Well, he's an 8. It depends on the system. So under Conte, the system has changed, and he's actually thriving under the system because he's getting further forward, and he's not being relied upon to dictate in front of a front three or being part of that.
So he's
defense.
pushing up the field.
He's further up, and you've seen that with some of the passing he's been able to do.
Good.
He's looked good, but and this is what he used to be. So yeah, I mean, not to this conversation, but certainly a really good squad player to fill in for a player like Frank Kessey if we brought something like that in to add depth. And I'd be fine with that if he gets played in the right position, which it seems like.
Conte does not view him as in his starting 11, but a good squad.
Not starting 11, but a very good squad player, which is my point. And it's pretty obvious.
I like this player a lot. We played him in the Champions League recently. I thought it was really impressive. I just don't see this happening because AC Milan are currently second to their rivals Inter Milan. He's a starter for them. He's week to week. It just is one of those ones where certain players have to be untouchable for the fans and for the team.
Which is fine. We get them for free at that point.
But for them, is it worth $40 million to have a chance at a title against Inter Milan? They're sworn rivals. It just feels like
for sure
they would be conceding the title a little bit to sell him.
Yeah, no, I think that's 100% true, and I think that's what makes the January transfer window so fucking difficult across the board, because you're trying to even if Blair is on that end, like Vlahovic is what I almost put Vlahovic in my list, but I'm like, you're not going to get rid of your best player, if the player who's the reason you're in the position you are in the league in the middle of a season, unless you know like something's going to happen to your club where you're desperate and you need that type of money. And I think Kessey fits into that, but based on what he said, I think there is something to it, but it would require the player to ask for the move and to insist on it, and I don't see that happening either. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one. Which one was I going to do next? I'm going to do Adama Traore next, and this is going to be a funny one because this has been this has been an ongoing one for Traore. You know,
that's not a legit picture. That's not him. He has way more body oil when he plays.
His valuation initially, like last summer, was somewhere around 60 to 70 is where the Wolves put him. And I was like, come on, like he terrifies defenses, but he's not. His statistics and his final third is terrible. He has 0 assists and 0 goals this season, and he doesn't even start for Wolves. So 20 million, I think, is an accurate price. I don't think we need a beefed up version of Lucas Moura. Essentially, that's what you're going to get out of him. Lucas
Moura scores.
Well, he started to assist as well. So, you know, the reason I picked him is because it's being talked about a lot.
Squad player, or convert him into a right wing back. I mean that would be what I would. If you're not going to deliver, as a forward, but you can run up that, and you're playing wing backs, like heavily wing backs, you need to rotate those wing backs well. Look at the size of that guy. Imagine him as a right wing back.
Yeah, he's faster Aaron Juan Basako.
He's going to crush defenses. So of course you have to convince him that he wants to do it. So, any thoughts, you guys? What you thoughts on Traore to Spurs?
He'd be a good signing. I mean, he still needs to take it up a level, but he creates a lot of chances for Wolves. So like if you put him in a better team offensively with Spurs, maybe you'd get more out of him. I think I'd be interested to see him in that Spurs team.
I don't know. It's I like him a lot. I think everybody kind of has at certain points. His numbers aren't as impressive, but
it's fun to watch.
I don't think he's necessarily had the best targets to aim at when he crosses the ball either. Like Jimenez has been injured majority of the season, and there isn't really anybody else that, like, his job is to get open and then cross the ball into the box. And like, if that's not turning into assists or goals, sometimes it's more on the players he's aiming at than him. Because I still see him making tons of space for himself and being like a nightmare to defenders. The only thing I would maybe caution,
Kane, right? Like you could see that.
Yeah. The only thing I would caution is that, I mean, he plays for a team that does traditionally use wingbacks, and he's never been deployed there. Or when he is deployed there, it's not.
You're also asking him to defend at that point to some extent.
Yeah,
and this is a player who isn't going to defend, right?
I'm not opposed to the idea of it. I'm just more of I just feel like if he was capable of doing it, Wolves would probably have tried it already, because they have always used, since he's been there, wingbacks.
Yeah.
Could he be your Victor Moses? Is what
I don't know. We've already got Victor Moses. But yeah. Anyway, I was just annoyed. Oh, sorry. I was just annoyed with that one because it just kept coming up.
It's like the rumor that comes back every year.
Like João Moutinho, we'd been signing for like 15 years. It was hilarious. And now he's like 35.
Shut up, media muppets.
So my next one, guys, is going to be Isco. And now Isco, this one started heating up recently. And Isco is a player that is.
I like him a lot.
Isco.
So Isco's a wonderful player when it comes to quality on the ball and his ability. He's getting on in age. I think he's probably, if you guys will correct me if I'm wrong, he's early 30s, 31, 32, I think. Doesn't necessarily start for Real Madrid, but he plays for Real Madrid, so he's playing with a lot of really good players. He is in that attacking mid position that Spurs desperately need creatively. I do think he's also physically he's not tiny. Like I think he could handle the Premier League, with the size that he is and his ability. At 20 million, his contract's running out. He it's one of those players in January. This is a good buy for 29. The price. 29. So 29. So you got a good 2 seasons at him. You give him a 2-year contract, buy him in January. Keep it the price low. As low as you can go, depending on how much Real Madrid value him at. I like this. This is one of my favorite ones. I mean, we've been sort of connected to him a bunch, and I think for what Spurs need this season, not for long term and for that's what we need forever, but we need a player like him. He's a winner. He is a creative player. He will tie in a lot of things that we need that we're missing. He's a better version of, say, a Dele, or like he does what Christian Eriksen used to do in that creativity. We're desperately missing it. I like this for the price. Would love to know what you guys think.
So he's 29. He's been in Madrid for a long time. So I do have a couple of questions. One, is he linked right now?
Yeah. That's why I brought it up. It's a big link.
And two, would he want, because I know he has had problems with Zidane in the past. There's been a lot of talk about transfers to him over the last 3 to 4 seasons. Would he want to move to the Premier League? And then finally, where does he play in Conte's system?
Yeah, does he?
Okay, so that's an easy one. So no, he plays in Conte's system perfectly. So Conte's system that I want Conte to play, which is the three. No, but it's what he played. It's what he won the league at last season in Serie A, which is a 3 at the back, 5 in a midfield with a 3, a diamond 3 in the mid, and he'd be the top of that diamond as a 10 with wingbacks flying, and you've got a 2 at the top with Son and Kane. Like, I mean, come on. I mean, you put Isco in that top of that diamond, you've got a serious situation. I mean, if he's a
player though,
well, what does that mean?
Will he work to the level that Conte wants players?
I don't know. I don't know him well enough. I don't know. But I mean, he's the type of player. He's a beast. He's a big guy. He's a very strong on the ball, and I think he's got the right. He's not
mentality. Fast though. He's not fast, and he's never been able to lay down a starting role for Real Madrid, which is not a knock on him. Because not a lot of guys can. But it always comes back to the same two things for me. It's the speed and the physicality. I wouldn't consider this guy to be a super strong player. I wouldn't consider him to be slender. I'll always come back to the adaptation. Could he come in and make an impact in the Premier League, not just for Spurs, but in the Premier League?
All I would ask for, and there's a reason why I like him in January, is for half a season. Could he do that? And
what's up, Cody Mack?
He's talented. He's a talented player.
I'm not looking for him to fill in that 10 position or that creative position forever. It's something we need for the rest of the season, especially if Tanguy Ndombele leaves or Lo Celso leaves. Those are the two players who are supposed to do that. Neither of them are remotely close to doing it. Isco has done it at the highest level. Yeah. I would trust Isco more than I would trust those two players we've already spent way more money on.
He's got high-end ability.
Connie, I'm going to talk. You got to stop, bro.
Go.
Because he's like, what do you guys think? And we just kept asking him questions. It's like, what?
Just tell us, Paul, what you think. How about that?
I think Isco would be a great signing. I think this guy can unlock a defense. I think the price is right. If he's willing to come to London, what the fuck? It's not a big gamble. He is undoubtedly very good with the ball. He's got a very good head on his shoulders.
Speed doesn't matter with a player like him.
Some of the stuff he does to break down defenses for Real Madrid, you don't see it as much now because he has injuries, play as much, and he is not working for a lot of the managers at Real Madrid. He was Zinedine Zidane's one of his favorites, and was one of the key players for those multiple Champions League runs that they made. He kept Gareth Bale out of the team. He was one of the reasons that, he's a capable player. I have question marks maybe on his injury situation because I think he's had multiple injuries now, and I think maybe the general concerns about his pace are amplified by I think he's actually maybe lost a step because of injury as well.
Is he fit? Yeah.
It's what I've heard. But with games like at Burnley, where you're just trying to break down a defense and it's not necessarily going to be a high tempo pressing and it's like a low block situation.
It's a great player to have in there.
I mean, 3 out of 5 games in the Premier League are going to be a situation like that. That's a good player to have and takes a lot of the creating responsibility off of Harry Kane, who I think has been overburdened with trying to do a lot of that himself. So, for the price, I like this for you guys.
Yeah, I agree, Paul, and I think that's where I'm at with it. That's why I said I like it. Again, it is a temporary solution. It isn't. This is what we need for the future. This is what we need to finish 4th. We need a player like Isco who's won at a very high level with a really good club with a bunch of really good players who will elevate the players around him and will create and get in. And like Paul just said, get in between those lines, break down those buses parked. That need to be broken down, and he's the type of player that can do it if the system's right. And of course, it will. That is what it'll come down to. A 3-5-2, which is what Spurs played against Liverpool, is the system. It's the best we played this season under Conte in that game. I don't know why he hasn't played it again. I'm still confused. Other than with subs, he's done it. He's shifted to it. We should be playing that system every week with an attacking mid who's actually going to create. And Dele did a good job of it in that one game. But Isco, week in, week out, against those teams, will unlock defenses.
Can I add one thing? Hold on, JP. This guy falls in a category for me where kind of like when Liverpool signed Thiago Alcantara, he's just a player I'd like to see in the Premier League just because of that elite ability
quality
he has. Yeah.
Yamas Rodriguez.
And again, you put good quality players around other good quality players, they all start to get better. He's the type of player that will make Sonny better. He'll make Kane better. He'll make whoever is on the right, if whoever, depending on the system, he'll make the players around him better. And he's won a bunch of shit. And Spurs are desperate for players like that. Anyway, I'm gonna move on because we've been talking about it for too long, and it's been a long show already. I'm gonna try to get through this quickly. Philippe Coutinho is one of my other ones. We've gone through Coutinho already. He is rumored as well. It's Villa, it's Spurs. There's a few other teams, obviously Newcastle,
Everton.
Similar to what we just talked about, does Philippe Coutinho offer basically the same thing that Isco does? I think he does. Does he offer it at the level that is required? We do know he has Premier League experience. It's been a long time though. Like, you can have the experience, but are you used to it? It's been a long time.
He did really good at Bayern Munich 2 years ago, though.
Yeah, sure, he did, but again, that's the Bundesliga.
The Bundesliga.
The Bundesliga, as much as Stu Mick wants to keep bigging up the Bundesliga, he's allowed back in. I only banned him for 5 minutes. But it does just because you've done that in those leagues and you haven't been in the Premier. How long has it been? It's been 6 or 7 seasons, right?
Stu's referencing Isco's time at Malaga.
Yeah. Well done, Stu. Nice.
What a topical remark.
Anyway, guys, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on Coutinho. I would take him like I would take Isco, but I'd prefer Isco. Like, I think they offer the same thing to Spurs at a moment when we need that creative player. They both are those types of players, and it's really what Spurs need. Can
you remember, guys, how sweet a right foot wand Philippe Coutinho has?
And we
left side of the box, cutting
also
in.
Free kick taker.
Dude, so good.
Spurs have not had a free kick taker since Eriksen left, and Eriksen
was so quick.
Eriksen was crap at free kicks. Like, he was good for like a season and then missed one for 2 years.
Harry Kane had a good free kick today.
He did.
It was a good save.
He did. It was a good save, but it was a save a keeper should make. But anyway, so I'm not going to spend too much time on Coutinho, but I would take him as a second tier down from Isco. I'd prefer Isco. I think Isco's a better player.
Brian, you know who made me just think about that I loved at Tottenham? Van der Vaart.
Van der Vaart.
I was thinking that. I was thinking Van der Vaart too. I was like, when I was thinking about Isco, I was thinking about Van der Vaart. I was just like, and he was a January signing, and he came in and he just made the sport look
He
easy.
wasn't a January signing. That's actually not true. I thought that was true, and then I looked it up, and he wasn't a January signing.
He was a late summer signing.
We bought him in January. We didn't get him until the summer.
Oh, okay.
So January signing, but not someone that was used that season.
One thing about Isco that I think I
got one more player here, JP. Unless you
want.
I thought you were just anyway.
You guys have this weird thing about getting Real Madrid players. Like, I feel like
we have a relationship.
You guys get more Real Madrid players. Than I think
they also get our players, by the way.
A couple of good ones from you.
Gareth Bale,
Luka Modric.
Some of our best players. Thank you.
I mean, it might be really easy scoring all those goals against, Hertha Berlin.
So anyway, I got my last player here, and I think this is a big one, and this is Antoine Griezmann. Who another attacking mid again, and I focused on this position because it is I think the position that is required for Spurs to get to that sort of level of finishing teams that they need to finish comfortably rather than struggling like we did against Watford, unlocking them. Antoine Griezmann, quality player. He has struggled to some extent at Barcelona, and some of that is to do with the systems he's played in and the players he's played with and whether or not it works. He has a lot of quality. He is getting a bit. What is he? 28, 29. So he should be in his peak, right? He's a good, solid player. I think he suits a system. He works really hard, which I think suits Conte as well. His running is at a high level, so he puts himself out there quite a bit. I worry about consistency and I worry about fitness. Thoughts, guys, on Antoine Griezmann at Spurs?
So he's 30. Isco's 29. So these are like
30.
older players. But I mean,
this is another for this season moment.
Yeah.
For January transfer.
So here's the thing. I do think you'd have a better chance of Griezmann just because for people who don't know, like Barcelona signed Ferran Torres, but they actually can't register him because they have too many players, and they are looking to offload a lot of people. So I think you could, if Griezmann wanted to come to Spurs, I think he wants to go back to Atletico, but I'm not sure. But I think he would be the pick out of all of them so far. Paul, what do you got on this one?
He's actually an Atletico Madrid player.
He's on loan. He's on loan at Barcelona, right?
Wasn't he on? No, he was on loan at Atletico. He was on
Did
loan
he
at
get loaned
Atletico.
back?
It's a complicated situation, clearly.
Isn't he Barca, but they loaned
He's
him
a
back?
Barcelona
I
player.
think he's a Barcelona player. Yeah,
He is.
When I looked it up, it said Barcelona on his Wikipedia.
He's
so I'm pretty sure.
100% a Barcelona. He was loaned to Atletico all of last season. Barcelona have major financial problems.
Yeah, they're kind of
and they're looking to offload a
would
lot
be
of
good for
guys.
Spurs if they were looking for a player like this to bring in, and probably at a cut price. I don't think 40 million is what you'd end up paying for him. You probably pay around 20 or so. And I think at 30 years old, again, for a half a season run for Spurs that needs some creativity, a player that could come in and do it without a ton of. Doesn't need a preseason necessarily with the right players around him. He's physical. His work rate's really high. I think he would respond to Conte's expectations of him. I think he'd be a good player. I think him or Isco probably the two that I would love to see at Spurs.
And you are linked with Griezmann?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're actually linked with. I mean, you're always kind of linked with big players, but like there's actual legit links now. When you have Conte as your manager, they become legit. That's just the nature of it. They're players who would normally be like, Spurs, or like, oh, Spurs. Like in London, Spurs, Conte. Like there's a bit of a different scenario, and I think that's where we're at. That's why you're seeing some of these bigger
I think there's a flip
linked.
side to that too, Bri, where there's a lot of players scared shitless of playing for Conte because they know how demanding he is.
Well,
as well.
I mean, if they're scared shitless and they don't want to play for Conte, they can fuck off out of my club in the first place.
You got it.
But yeah, those are my players, guys. I'm curious overall. Any other thoughts on Spurs or anything, or should we call it a night?
Fuck,
I hope Atletico Madrid allow Griezmann to go. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Atletico, but Barca own him. He's on loan at Atletico. So I think it all comes down to do they have a callback feature?
He was on loan.
He's on loan right now
At Atletico.
at Atletico
From Barcelona.
Oh, okay.
Barcelona own him though, so again, it's a complicated situation. It's
financial.
It just shows how La Liga is ran so well.
Yeah, it's a total mess. But that was fun, guys. An hour and 45 minutes.
It's an obligation to buy loan, which is in football is called layaway.
Right. You're gonna have to pay for them anyway.
Rain check.
So, yeah. For sure.
Hopefully we get some action in January, though, and there actually are some transfers because usually it's pretty quiet.
There are a lot of players, Connie, that are on those end of their contract situations, more so than I've seen previously.
I mean, Trippier is pretty much done.
I think there's a lot of players too and teams that are kind of like, how do I better myself without, or how do we better ourselves without money or without a scenario we normally have, like, and how can we deal with that? So
there's a ton of players. We haven't mentioned a bunch of Chelsea players, Paul Pogba. There's a lot of big profile
Chelsea
names.
have most of their defense are on their last. Yeah. Rudiger is a big one. I mean, he's a player that I would love to see at Spurs. That'd be fantastic. But
I think was it Christensen who just got offered?
Yeah, Christensen, another one as well. Actually, he was a rumor. He's rumored for Spurs as well. But of course, they all are when they're your club. Old. They're all rumored. But
there's actually there's a ton of that. I'm actually working on a video right now because I have this theory that this summer will be one of the biggest arms races for strikers, and there's 4 possible generational talents available. Starting with like Harry Kane, who is significant because if he goes to City, then
summer.
Yes, he is.
No, okay. I mean he's available.
Without unpacking that.
I mean from a contract perspective. Sorry, I just wanted to say
available, like as in
got 2 years left in his contract.
It's likely that he's whatever. I don't want to say it.
He would make himself available.
Of the big transfer targets, some of them are free and available that way, and some of them are looking to move on and available that way. That's
quite different.
So I'm working on this video right now where Harry Kane is going to be a large target, Mbappe is going to be available for free. Erling Haaland's making sense, and there's a guy who's playing in Fiorentina right now.
Vlahovic is on Spurs.
Yeah, wait, hold on. Did I say that right?
Vlahovic. No,
Vlahovic.
He's actually said he wants to come to Spurs. I mean, I don't know. They said in the media that he wants to come to Spurs, but we'll see.
Yeah,
I would love to see that. That'd be fantastic.
So, like, what's really interesting about this summer is that there's 4 to 5 significant. You're going to be set for 5 years. And the amount of teams that can afford these players it's like 6 to 7 for some of these guys, maybe even 3 to 4 for some of the other ones. And it's wild because it's one of these situations where, if Mbappe goes to Real Madrid, then take Real Madrid off the contender list for Haaland. Like
did you hear? It's going to be Real Madrid say they could go for Haaland too.
Yeah. What
go for saying I don't know.
They don't have to spend a buy on.
They're also struggling.
we question anything that the president of either Barcelona or Real Madrid says right now.
Anything in La Liga at the moment is questionable. Just don't believe any of it.
It's wildly fascinating because then there are scenarios where maybe it's better for like an Arsenal, for example, to overpay on Dusan Vlahovic because maybe you get him before that arms race starts, but because
buy him in January, pick him, get him in the summer.
But even come January, like as soon as they're available to start talking about who their next club is, like Mbappe is the first of the dominoes that fall. Like as soon as he officially signs. Like a pre-contract with Real Madrid. Like
one goes, the other.
Madrid offered 40 million today.
But let's talk about it quickly. The rumors are out. Like Mbappe wants Real Madrid. Harry Kane will be at Manchester City next year. I don't give a fuck what anyone says.
Dude.
Brian, like nail it.
He's literally in the middle of contract negotiations.
He's going to be the greatest player to never win a trophy.
He's going to Man City next year, and then Haaland.
Do you want to put money on it, Connie?
Yeah, I will. Okay. We'll talk about that after. But then Haaland, then you don't even know what's going to happen with Lukaku at Chelsea after all of this stuff. And he's not. I told you, I don't think he's looking great there. Haaland would fit in like a glove at Chelsea. Like a glove.
Actually, nobody really I think Haaland and Bayern Munich make tons of sense because
Lewandowski's
Dortmund is the feeder club to Bayern Munich anyways.
Lewandowski says he wants out, but Bayern say they're going to keep him for 3 more years. But
Lewandowski's getting older, and Haaland's going to come in and maybe second fiddle for a season. But I mean, he knows he's going to win a title or two.
He's not playing second fiddle anywhere wherever he goes. He's going to start.
Talk about the bet. Yeah.
Talk about the bet. I'll put $100 on it right now. $100.
I'll put $100 on it.
Oh, hold on. Let's change his bet.
Okay, good. No, don't change the bet. You don't get to change the bet. It's not your bet. I want to
throw this out there.
No, it's not your fucking bet. It's not your bet.
If it happens, you have to buy a Harry Kane Man City jersey.
No.
And wear it for a pod.
That's more than $100.
Oh.
Okay, sure.
That's terrible.
I'll do that. But if I'll have to think about what he has to do for me. But
no,
I mean, $200.
No,
Harry Kane's going.
Nobody should be like wearing anything that says Qatar on their bodies. No.
Yeah.
Well, Brian and I will finalize the bet. We'll figure out the details and we'll share it.
And when we do, we'll bring it
chugging because we know Connie can't do that.
On the next episode, we'll talk about it. Cody, thanks for bringing that up because I know when you get it when it's recorded, right? It's like you can't.
Pep wants him. Pep wants him. He wants Man City. It's going to happen, and Harry will force it in the summer.
There is no way he's going to City next season. You're clueless. You have no idea what's going on inside the club at the moment.
100%. He's going.
He'll likely sign a contract before the end of this season to stay.
I'll bet you on that as well.
Summer, though, too.
I can almost guarantee he's going to sign another contract in the next probably 2 months.
I guarantee that contract's got a very clear. If somebody comes in and pays this amount of money, I'm gone.
I doubt it.
Another 100 million, I'm out.
I doubt it.
To Harry Kane's credit, he knows
he's been convinced by content.
No, he hasn't. Harry Kane knows
Dude,
he won't be considered in that upper echelon unless he gets a Premier League title.
He thinks he can win the Premier League title with Conte.
He doesn't.
He does. You're wrong. You're totally
wrong. On that note,
we're winning a title in 2
Great
years,
way to end the show, guys. Great way to end the show. It's been a pleasure. Especially Stu or whatever his name was. I banned him, by the way, because he kept trying. I just was done with it.
Every other league was better than the EPL. Apparently.
Can I ask a question? Why did we entertain him so much? Like,
why did you entertain people who are watching your show because they're watching your show? Yeah. You do that because that's what you're supposed to do. But he inevitably just became a complete idiot and annoying. And I gave him a break, and then he came back and did it again. Jesus. So I banned him. So Stu, again, if you end up watching this again, even though I banned you from in the comments, and you actually just want to email us and have a real conversation instead of being a complete prick, we'll welcome that. But otherwise, you're a complete prick, so you can fuck up. And on that note, we'll be back next week. Guys, we have shows coming up. But Paul and his boops. We have to do another show before next weekend, so we're going to do a preview show. Look for that. Thanks for everybody who supports us. We're a new channel, so like and subscribe, pass it on to people, everybody you know, and look forward to seeing you soon. Cheers, guys. Have a good one.
Cheers. Have a great one. Bye.
This is the North End. This is the North End.